Hi, my name is Melody Valdez, and for my research project, I decided I wanted to focus on the Salem witch trials and the variables that played into making it such a big event of mass hysteria and killings we now recall it for today. Just as a general overview, I will be discussing how gender, religious tension, class, and society dynamics influence the Salem witch trials. Let's get started. The Salem witch trials began in 1692 in the town of Salem Village. The trials themselves resulted in the deaths of 25 individuals, none of whom were confirmed to do witchcraft. The trials are generally referred to as a very big prominent example of mass hysteria and the sheer influence that society can have on its people. Salem Village is now a historical tourist destination, as many people go there and visit it on a daily basis. The trials themselves were heavily affected by the influence of gender, class, religious tension, and societal dynamics. The image shown is a visual representation of what burning at the stakes would look like during the Salem witch trials. Beginning with gender, over 75% of people accused were women. The witch trials began with the strange behavior of young girls. They claimed that they were acting strangely, which to the Puritans meant that they were throwing fits, positioning themselves in weird contortions, hiding under various pieces of furniture, making strange noises, and speaking in these unidentifiable languages, and feeling pinches that weren't actually there. Doctors would then claim with this that there were no physical issues and would conclude that there were supernatural causes at play. This resulted to the common viewpoint that women were more susceptible to the devil's influence. So they believed that because you were a woman, you were more likely to be conjuring with the devil. Commonly, as well, women who were strange became the biggest targets. For example, people like Bridget Bishop were targets because of their audaciousness. She was a woman in Salem Village who is known for being loud, poor, and independent. This made her stand out in the Puritan community of Salem. She was considered to be quite scandalous as she ran a tavern, which was usually associated with male owners. She was accused of witchcraft years prior, keeping her under suspicion for many years, and in 1692, she was officially convicted of witchcraft. The reason for her conviction was the testimony of a few girls claiming that she had cursed them. All this evidence was speculative, and most people claimed that her personality was just a description to others in the community. She was found guilty on June 10th, 1692. Bridget's case is just one of the many examples of the broader pattern of the effects of gender and social status accusations during the Salem witch trials. In addition to this, some misogynistic beliefs and patriarchal roles heavily contributed to these accusations. Religious tension was also a major factor in the trials. The Puritans were religious extremists. They believed that everyone had to be a Christian. They also feared the devil was targeting specifically them and their church. One example of this was Reverend Parris. He often preached that Satan was conspiring to destroy the church of Salem. And because of this, some ministers like Cotton Mather, which is the image on the screen right now, claimed that the trials were defending the church from the devil's influence, and thus he justified the killings. The churches also, in their teachings, instilled a deep fear that caused this mass hysteria. In the trials, they would also use scriptural evidence to determine if someone was a witch. So, for example, if someone didn't know the Ten Commandments, they would conclude that that person was practicing witchcraft. Class also played a role in the Salem witch trials. Many of the people who were accused were poor. Poor individuals were viewed as nuances, like Sarah Good. Sarah grew up in a poor household and married poor men several times. At some point, she was so poor that she was homeless. She tried her best to survive and often begged for money, but ultimately was just regarded as unpleasant and a nuisance to the town. This led her to become a victim of the Salem witch trials. Thus, her position as a poor woman in society made her more open to being wrongly convicted. Sarah's story is just one of the many stories of women being convicted due to their social and economic status. Also, I think it's just important to mention that the lower class had a lack of protection because they had fewer rights. At the time, having money kind of opened this gateway to opportunity, as it still kind of does, honestly. Many of these people found it much harder to also defend themselves because of their illiteracy. Many women and women, especially women, but many people had this lack of education, which caused them not to be able to defend themselves as well, especially when it came to reciting scripture, as stated before. I feel like also the accusations were simply a way of removing the undesirable people or poor people from society. In Puritan society, many rules and regulations were at play. They believed that if they could maintain certain ideologies, people would then grow closer to God. One of these, as stated before, was that Christianity was the only religion. This required them to have a plethora of scriptural knowledges and know a ton of scriptural passages. Along with this, their justice system was very flawed. One of the most flawed aspects of it was the court and oyer and terminer, which pretty much just enabled them to use any form of speculative evidence in the trials, which, as we know, can only lead to a lot of harm because not having concrete evidence is just, it's gonna lead to things not going well, I feel. So a lot of it was based off of that. This combined with their scriptural ideology led to a lot of people being falsely accused and convicted. In conclusion, the Salem witch trials were greatly influenced by gender, religious tension, and class, in culmination with the strict Puritan society that surrounded them. Women, especially those who were very outspoken and who did not conform to society's expectations, were often targets for witchcraft. Religious extremism helped fuel fear among the people, which then led to the killing of many innocent people. Classes then influenced how people were viewed and respected in their society. Overall, the Salem witch trials fueled fear, inequality, and injustice and left a lasting impression on American history. Thank you.